You're listening to Docs Outside the Box, episode 17.
Welcome to Docs Outside the Box podcast. This is your official show, looking inside the minds of cutting-edge and innovative doctors. Think you'll find these stories in any medical textbook? Sorry. You're getting real live insight from men and women pushing the envelope beyond medicine. Ordinary doctors doing extraordinary things. Let's start now with your host, Dr. Nee Darko.
What's good, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Docs Outside the Box. I am your host, Dr. Nee Darko, and I'm doing things a little bit different this time. I'm actually not recording in my usual spot. I am in Newark, New Jersey at my parents' house. I've been visiting for the past couple of weeks, and I'm recording in the basement, taking it back old school, popping the trunk on y'all. And I'm recording in Newark, New Jersey, a little bit of a change of scenery. I am also recording on Super Bowl Sunday. I am rooting for the Atlanta Falcons. Look, I'm a Giants and Jets fan. I grew up in New York. All things I root for is New York and New Jersey. So Knicks, Nets, Mets, Jets, Rangers. And obviously I hate anything from the New England, Boston area. So there's no way you're going to catch me rooting for the New England Patriots. So although I'm not an Atlanta Falcons fan or I don't have any skin in the game, I just can't see New England winning. So that's the reason why I'm choosing to roll with the Atlanta Falcons. So before we get into our next episode, I just want to take a quick moment to read some reviews from iTunes. Once again, I want to thank everyone who has been taking the time out to go on iTunes or Stitcher Radio or Google Play and leaving a review. I read each and every one of them. So thank you very much. And once again, those reviews help the show to grow, helps the show to move up on the rankings within iTunes. So let's start off with Dr. William R. Morrison, MD, PhD. A little bit of some alphabet soup after your name, but his review, after giving me 5 stars, thank you very much, is: the information was very informative, very educational. I thoroughly enjoyed it. So Dr. Morrison, thank you very much. I appreciate that. The next review is from Joshua Holt, and it's titled Lots of Inspiration. And he says, this is a great podcast. Definitely glad I found it. The host is great. Thank you very much. And subjects are really interesting. Keep them coming. I definitely will keep them coming. So Mr. Holt, Joshua Holt, thank you very much for leaving me a 5-star review. And the last one I'll read today is from Pa Kofi Obang. And with a name like that, I'm going to assume he's from Ghana. And he says, your podcast is invaluable asset to the medical community. Dr. Darko, keep doing your thing. I'm going to keep doing my thing. Pa Kofi, thank you for leaving a review. I appreciate it. And to everybody else, to all the listeners, if you ever have 15 to 30 seconds of free time after the podcast, just take a quick moment to go to iTunes, to Stitcher Radio, and just leave me a review, please. It doesn't even have to be 5 stars, just any type of review, letting me know how you think. Like I said, when I first did the show, this show was meant to be interactive, and it's only going to get better based off of your recommendations, based off of your reviews. So keep them coming. So you all have heard the quote, necessity is the mother of all invention. But if you take that quote and bring it back to what happened in 2007, 2009, we all know that there are a lot of bad things that came from the huge economic downturn during those years of 2007 to 2009. I, for a fact, know that I definitely was affected by that. Although I was a resident at that time, I was living in the Atlanta area, which I think everybody knows was hugely affected disproportionately from the housing market. And there was a bunch of foreclosures in my neighborhood, which brought down the value of my house, which is still recovering to this day. But I still remember a lot of bad things. I still have a bad taste in my mouth from those 2 years, or even more actually for other people. But one of the best things to come from that time was there appeared to be this resurgence, this spark in the personal finance movement. And this personal finance movement spawned numerous personal finance blogs like Mr. Money Mustache and my next guest, who is Future Proof MD, and Physician on Fire. All these different personal finance blogs seem to have come out from the personal from the economic downturn of the years of 2007 to 2009. So from paying off huge amount of debt like car loans and student loans to learning how to invest passively like index funds, there's a personal finance blog for everyone. Whether you're a baby boomer, whether you're a millennial, black, white, a lot of these personal finance blogs, a lot of them remain anonymous for obvious reasons. You know, maybe financially they're doing very well and they don't want everybody to know exactly who they are. Some people are very free with letting you know who they are. Some even put down their net worth, like my next guest. So on I think it was episode 4, I had Dr. Jim Dolly, who is the creator of the famous White Coat Investor website, on my show. And look, as comprehensive as it is, it's also very inspirational because it helped spark the personal finance movement for physicians. So we already know that the personal finance movement was really huge for, you know, everyone else, but what about doctors? So as far as I'm concerned, I think as most people would say, Jim Dolly, the White Coat Investor, was the first large, comprehensive, consistent website that was really dedicating to making sure that, quote unquote, people of the white coat got a fair shake on Wall Street. And in this episode, I'm going to get to interview Future Proof MD. And Future Proof MD is a disciple of the White Coat Investor. He is a recent entry into the world of personal finance blogs. Now, his blog started because although he had a passion for personal finance, he noted that the majority of his fellow residents, the majority of fellow medical students, and even attendings, they lacked this knowledge of personal finance. And he just got sick and tired of, you know, individually talking to each person. And he said, wouldn't it be better just to make a website where everyone can continually go and it becomes an evergreen situation where he continues to write posts and he can answer and directly take care of all of the questions that you may have. So from his Investing 101 series, which I highly recommend, and you can find a link directly in the show notes, to his reviews of personal finance tech, in less than 3 years, Future Proof MD has become a major player in the realm of personal finance. And his tagline is, quote unquote, serving up digestible money tips with a focus on topics relevant to young medical professionals. And he's been zigzagging through the United States. You'll hear on the show. So he got his MD from the University of Missouri, Columbia. And then from there, he went all the way west and did his internship at Banner University Medical Center in Phoenix, Arizona. And now currently he is a radiology resident. Yes, I'm serious. He's not an attending. He's a radiology resident. I don't know how he finds time to do all this, but he currently is a radiology resident at Florida Hospital in Orlando, Florida. So before we get into the meat and potatoes of the interview, I just want you to pick up some things from the interview. So some of the things that we get to talk about are the myths that doctors have about their finances. And we also even talk about some of the mistakes, the 3 common mistakes that physicians make about their finances. You're gonna get a chance to hear his advice for young attendings with large student loan debt. We also get to hear his personal philosophy on money management. And the cool thing is we get to put a crystal ball in front of him and we get to hear where he thinks Future Proof MD will be in 5 years. And obviously, as always, you're going to learn why he's not just a doc and how he answers, I'm not just a doc. So without further ado, I present to you Future Proof MD. Back at it again with another episode of Docs Outside the Box. I am excited to bring to you the creator, the writer of Future Proof MD blog. And he goes by an anonymous name, so I can't use his name. So I want to welcome Future Proof MD. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, hey, thank you for having me on the show, Dr. Darko.
It looks like I got to say that at least 3 or 4 times as a tongue twister, but I'll get used to it by the end of the show. But welcome to the show. And look, before we get into the nitty gritty, before we get into the specifics about your life and about your blog, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? For example, tell us about what med school you went to, where you're doing your residency, and so forth.
So I'm a Chinese immigrant. I went to medical school at University of Missouri, Columbia. I did my internship in internal medicine at Banner University Medical Center. I had to think for a second because it used to be called Banner Good Samaritan.
Is that out in Arizona?
That's right, in Phoenix.
Okay.
And now I'm currently in my radiology residency at Florida Hospital in Orlando.
Man, you're just zigzagging through the country.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Well, look, it's a pretty small world because me and my wife actually, we did our med school, out in Kansas City, Missouri. So we were just down I-70 from you.
Oh, wow, yeah. KCUMB?
Yeah, man, how'd you know?
Yeah, I did some research.
Yeah, you're looking me up. So it's interesting because I usually stalk my guests, and I stalked you obviously, but it's weird to have it the other way around. But yeah, there's some good information out there on me, I guess. So look, so currently right now you're in Orlando, Florida.
Uh-huh.
And you're doing radiology.
That's correct.
Why radiology?
Actually, it's just a lucky fit, I guess. So I initially went to medical school to become a family doctor. And as I went through medical school, I realized that wasn't really a good fit for me. So I started looking for other specialties to focus on. And it was just kind of lucky because one of the pathology residents said, hey, you're kind of a techie person. You should look into radiology. And I went and did a rotation, and I was like, wow, this is great, So that's how I ended up in radiology.
Now, I'm on your website, Futureproof MD. So everybody, that's futureproofmd.com. It's an amazing website. And the tagline is digestible financial tips from medical professionals. Why did you decide? Tell us the genesis of this website.
So I actually started this in January of 2015. I've always been interested in finances, and I kind of like to blab my mouth, if you will, and just talk about things. And I've been talking to my peers and medical students on an individual basis for quite some time. And I kind of started the website mostly to just have one place so I don't have to repeat the same advice and tips over and over again to multiple people. I was mostly just kind of I wasn't really interested in starting a website per se in the beginning, but then I went to a physician-specific financial advising group dinner when I was an intern, and there was some misinformation being tossed around.
Uh-oh, you were that type.
Yeah, so I said, hey, we have to watch out for ourselves and for our colleagues and peers to make sure we get the right information. So
tell me about that meeting. What specifically stood out to you in terms of just bad information? Was it bad information given out by the financial advisors? Speak more about that.
It wasn't necessarily bad. It was just some incorrect information, specifically regarding the public service loan forgiveness. Basically, there's this misconception out there that if you do the public service loan forgiveness, all of the amount that's being forgiven at the end of 10 years is considered taxable income. But if you look on the website and the Department of Education itself, it's actually specifically says that all of the forgiven amount is not considered taxable income. So that's just, a small detail that was mischaracterized.
So was the information that you were giving, the correct information, was that taken very well by the host of the dinner?
Yeah, it was. I mean, I think they took it very well. And I've actually probably corrected 2 or 3 more financial advisors since then, kind of on a just private, personal conversations on that misconception. It seems to be a pretty commonly held one for some reason. In
terms of your website, we're getting close to year 3 now on your website. Is that correct?
Year 2. Yeah, actually getting almost close to the year 2 anniversary.
Now, how, in terms of, I'm looking right now at your website, it has number 429 ranked blog in terms of a categorization by modest money, which in essence, there's so many different personal finance blogs out there. So that has to be a really great honor to be up there. in terms of starting the website, what were some of the pitfalls that you faced when you were starting the blog?
One of the problems was I wasn't very technically savvy, so I didn't know how to do a lot of the things that I guess making a good looking and intuitive website was you needed. But luckily I was able to find this service provider called Squarespace, which is kind of make your website for dummies. So it made it relatively easy for me to just do drag and drop design and create. The other things that were difficult were basically finding the time to write. As you know, residency, even a radiology residency, can be quite busy. So.
Wait, I thought they used to call that rate a holiday.
I know, exactly, right?
That's not true?
In medical school, that was true, right? But it's a little different once you're in the driver's seat.
All right, now this is weird because I always call my guests by their first name or by their last name. So I'm like, should I call you Future Proof or MD? I don't know, but so Future. Actually, I'm gonna say Future.
No, actually, you know what? You can just call me by Bo. It's completely fine. The only reason I asked to go by FPMD is just because I wanted to have like a unified web presence.
Okay. All right. So that was going to lead to my next question. And so then you're not technically anonymous with your site, because I know there are, not just within the medical personal finance field, but also within, the other personal finance. There's a lot of people who are writing and having very popular personal finance blogs, but they are under a pseudonym. It's anonymous. What are your thoughts on that? Is that how you initially tried to start out, or obviously?
No. I never had any intention or design to be anonymous, because for me, being kind of open and transparent is, it's really fun, and also it feels like it gets me closer to my readers as well. I think the concerns of the other people are completely valid for privacy reasons, but for me, it's not really that big of an issue.
You mentioned this earlier. You kind of talked a little bit on the surface of this, but obviously you're a resident right now in radiology. Finding the time to do not only be an excellent radiologist, but also at the same time, have a social life and then also do this website. How are you able to balance the two? Because right now you're currently putting out about 3 articles a week, right?
Yes, sir. It's actually very difficult is going to be the short answer. But I think in the end, we all end up finding time to do the things that we love to do. I just happen to love to write for the blog, and, other people might find time to go to the gym, read other types of books other than finance books. So I feel like we eventually, whatever it is that we're passionate about, we always find time to do those things.
So then rather than be a legend in the gym, you'd rather be a legend at the bank.
That's right.
So
or on the internet.
Yeah. So with what's going on with your blog and everything that you're writing, is that in any way affecting your practice currently? Do you find yourself being miserly in the studies that you take, or I don't know. But is there any type of parallels or any type of do you find your practice to be affected by what you're writing about?
Well, like being a resident, I guess I don't have any control over how the medical, the clinical practice is financially. So I don't do anything different there. But my personal life, I'm quite frugal to begin with. And the other things is I like to take the pay yourself first approach as far as investing and planning for retirement and things like that.
Okay. Well, let's talk more about that then. So let's say you have some residents who are whatever specialty they're in. What's some good advice that you would give residents, particularly like first year residents coming in terms of how to be more responsible with their money?
I think the most important thing is to be intentional with their money. I think a biggest problem is people tends to just treat it passively, and they think of it as something that would just sort itself out in the future. You're not going to just become good at, say, surgery or medicine or radiology just because, you have to kind of actively learn about it and become an active participant in order to become a good surgeon or ENT doctor or radiologist. And I feel that the same lesson applies to money management and kind of planning for a financially secure future.
Before we get too much in depth about how, the reaches of your website, how did you get the knowledge? How did you acquire this knowledge?
I actually mostly read basically different internet outlets, books on my own. The initial boost came from a college class I took called the Intro to Personal Finance. And that's kind of how I got started. But
that's rare. That's rare. Like you rarely see that. That's amazing.
Yeah, it was a really good class, and I think it's a very popular class at Washington University in St. Louis, where I went to school. But after that, I've been mostly reading just books, forums, internet media, and I think one of my personal heroes was featured on your podcast previously, and that's the White Coat Investor.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, one thing that I shared with him on the show, and I'll share with you, is that obviously I learned about personal finance through the School of Hard Knocks, and as a result, and ultimately right now I'm in the 8th grade right now in the School of Hard Knocks, transitioning to high school right now. So I'm still making mistakes, but I've learned the hard way. Is there, if you relate that to physicians in general, I know you're a resident and you haven't seen the attending life, quote unquote, so to speak, but can you speak about the top 3 mistakes that you're seeing doctors make financially right now?
From where I stand, I think one is, I think I mentioned this earlier, is just not paying attention, not being intentional with how they manage their money. 2, especially with the medical trainees, people in our position as residents and fellows, is they have this mentality of I'll do it when, fill in the blank. And
that's a good point. Yeah.
So I think those are like the biggest issues that I see. I don't really have a third one.
Okay. In terms of myths, is there any myths that you see that doctors have in terms of their finances? Like, all doctors are rich.
That's definitely a very popular one. I think that one's a pretty commonly held one, and we all know that not to be true because of the level of expenses and debt that we go into. But another one I think is actually quite the opposite. So I think there's some myth out there to some, especially within the medical profession, that we feel that we are poor. There's this myth that you're going to be very uncomfortable, you're going to be working for the rest of your life, and you're not going to be financially secure. And as demonstrated by many of your guests and yourself probably, and hopefully me in the future, that is definitely not true, because if you plan and if you live intentionally with your money, you will be very much financially secure going forward.
I love that answer. And that's absolutely right. I mean, between me and my wife, we have so much in student loan debt, but initially we saw this huge mountain in front of us, and we thought, well, we're not making enough to ever get past this huge mountain of debt that we had. But like you said, once we got intentional, once we made a plan, although we're still in debt, we are literally past 3/4 of the way towards our debt. So I agree with you. I think, the whole woe is me attitude that physicians are not, at least can't be comfortable, is false, particularly if you're intentional with your money.
Yeah, I completely agree there.
Now, what are your thoughts on financial advisors? Do you have one? Do you use one? Do you recommend one?
I do not have one. I've talked to many, and I actually correspond with plenty for my blog, because they are great advisors as far as to topics I'm not really familiar with. They are obviously, some are better than others. And I don't use one mostly because I'm very interested in learning the details of managing my own money. And I spend a lot of time and effort learning how to do that and learning how to do that efficiently. And that's why I don't have one. But there are definitely some good financial advisors out there for people who are not, that interested in learning about every single little detail of investing, tax management, estate planning, you name it.
What about robo-advisors? What's your thoughts? Yay, nay, neutral?
I actually use them. I use Betterment, and I think that's the only one I use. I actually think they're very good, but because they're so new, I think it's going to take some time for the general public to become more aware of, and they will need to be compared with the traditional investment management firms as well.
I want to take a step back and actually talk more about you now. So when you started the website, the blog, obviously close to 2 years ago, when you started it, did you tell a lot of people that you were starting this website, or did you just put out your information on the internet and then just allow people to kind of find it?
More so just kind of put it out there and let people find it. I mostly told people I'm close to, co-residents and personal friends and family. And anytime I make a post, I would usually put it on social media as well. And that would be another way to reach people.
How did you get your website so popular? Because it looks like, based off of my research, I mean, it takes a long time to really move up the rankings, with websites and blogs. I mean, there's so much competition out there. It's a very distracted field, particularly if you're a reader, with so much information out there and so many different, SEO out there trying to grab taglines and stuff. How do you differentiate yourself from other personal finance, blogs?
I really appreciate it, actually, because I think of my blog as a very small, not very popular operation. But I think a lot of it just comes with time, because as you go through more time, you're going to have more content. And within that content selection, some are going to be good, some are going to be okay, and some are going to be bad. And the good ones will be picked up by, search engines and other media outlets. And the other thing that I would recommend would be to network, because we actually have, as soon as you put up a blog, you discover you are now among a community of physician bloggers. And within this built-in community, there are more popular outlets that you could guest post for and, participate in forum discussions to get your name out.
So the operation of Future Proof MD, is that like a one-man team? Do you have other people working for you?
Yeah, it's essentially just me. I do everything from managing the web design to writing posts to guest posting for others and posting others' guest posts.
Financially now, what's the financial, I'm not going to get too specific into your money. You can tell me, hey, Nee, back up off my money. But
oh no, don't worry. You should check out my net worth updates. I get pretty specific.
Okay. So you do have net worth. Now, is this net worth of overall how you're doing, or just kind of how you're doing from the website standpoint?
Oh, no, I combine everything. So I kind of roll the website operations into my personal, because my personal finances.
If we may ask, like in terms of just how you're doing separately, just from the website, lucrative, not lucrative, needs more time to grow. What's your thoughts on it?
Surprisingly well, because when I first started, it wasn't like I was really just looking for a soapbox. But luckily, I guess once you do something and you do it well enough, there will be other people coming to kind of pay you for your work, which is fantastic. So I think, like, as far as my operation, I actually enjoy it. I think I generate enough revenue from the blog for it to justify the amount of effort I put into it.
How is the reaction from your co-residents, from your family, specifically with your co-residents and even attendings? What do they think about it?
I think most of the people are very supportive, and they think just like you and me. We kind of feel like this is finances, especially personal finances, is something that's not very well taught in medical education. So I think everybody I've talked to have been very supportive. My family, on the other hand, has been in the beginning was very much against me posting the net worth updates, because it reveals a lot of private information about myself. But I actually paused that for about a year, and then I brought it back because it's something I'm interested in telling people about, because I am teaching you how to manage money, but am I actually practicing what I preach, So, and then I found out there's a lot of other bloggers doing the same thing. So
I agree. I think that gives a sense of credibility if you're able to do that.
Yeah. So that's what I'm currently doing. I publish my what I call net worth updates every quarter, and the last one just went out in October.
Well, I want to ask you a question, a scenario, and I want to take it through a scenario, and I want to get your opinion. And I asked a similar question to Dr. Dolly, Jim Dolly, the white coat investor, and I just want to see what your thoughts are. So let's say, for example, we have a new resident, a resident who's graduating, and he has about $250,000 in debt. What's the bare minimum advice that you're going to give to this attending?
Bare minimum is to have a plan for that debt first before you assign any of that income to other uses, if you will.
So no Tesla?
You can, as long as you have a plan for the debt. So I think that's something that people need to learn to address first, is kind of prioritizing. Just going off a tangent, when in medical school, I did a rotation in middle of nowhere, Missouri, and there was, I guess, a patient who was a receiver of Medicaid, which to me signaled that, her income was so low that she needed some help. But at the same time, she showed up with an iPhone, a MacBook Pro, and some, nice shoes. And to me, it didn't really look like someone who really needed help. This is before I could afford an iPhone. So it just, to me, I feel like people's financial priorities are always so different. And to me, for somebody you just described, a new attending, a lot of debt, the first priority is to have a plan for that debt before you assign that income to anything else. And obviously, a big part of my blog is addressing student loan management, because that's kind of the big issue facing most residents and fellows.
Oh, goodness, yeah.
And my advice is for most people to look into your employer and see if you qualify for public service loan forgiveness, because that would be very beneficial. And I made many posts about it on the site as well.
Would you mind talking a little bit about the forgiveness program, just a short spiel on what it is and your thoughts on it?
Oh, yeah. The public service loan forgiveness is a program that forgives all of your federal student debt after 120 payments, so 10 years. What that says is no matter how much debt you have after the 10-year payment, it's all gone. And the reason for that is you will be working for a designated or qualifying public service organization. And if you look into the terms, actually, it's quite broad. So most of the not-for-profit hospitals, which for most people who are these days going into an employment situation, would qualify for. So I would implore most of your listeners and my readers to at least look into this program to see if this is something they qualify for.
Okay. Now, is there any, obviously I know you do, but I'd like for you to talk about it. If someone is just graduating from residency, or even let's say someone is in, middle of their career and they've had a financial advisor do everything for them. Let's just take those two people graduating from residency, or someone who has worked with a financial advisor and wants to do things on their own in terms of investing. Do you have any writing, any posts that they could look for to kind of get started in investing, almost like an investing 101?
Well, I definitely do. Actually, there's a series I have called 101, or Series 101.
I'm there right now.
One of them, yeah, one of them is basically Introduction to Investing. And I plan to kind of make additional posts, basic informational services about kind of almost like a lexicon, like what is this? What are people talking about when they say drip, things like that.
Well, I'll definitely leave that in the show notes. So for all the listeners who are looking for that link, it's very easy to find, but I'll put it in the show notes so people can directly get to your site that way.
Yeah, and for those people who don't know, DRIP, or DRIP, stands for Dividend Reinvestment Plan.
Yeah, I don't even know what that is. I'll be going to your one-on-one site for that. In terms of how you manage money in your own household, obviously someone can go to your site to kind of see that. Is there some basic tenets that you follow in terms of how you yourself manage money for yourself?
Yeah, I think the most important one, and again, I mentioned this earlier, is to take the pay yourself first approach. And so what I do is I get paid every 2 weeks, automatic deposit into, a checking account. And what I do is every 2 weeks, I set up my investment to withdraw. And every 2 weeks, I have my 403B contributions come out of my paycheck and my HSA contributions. So basically, I don't see a lot of the money, so I don't have to think about, I have all this money coming in, how could I spend it? Because it's all going into investing and planning for the future automatically.
That's pretty good. I love that answer, actually. Well, look, in terms of obviously the success that you've had with Future Proof MD, in the span of 2 years, now you're going into year 3. Obviously, you've seen an amazing fan base. You have an amazing fan base. What's the next thing for you? What's the next thing we should expect from you?
I think the most important thing I'm trying to do is just to put out more financial information so you can look for more posts. The other thing I want to do is expand the reach of the blog. And thank you again for inviting me to be on the show. I am looking to do additional guest posts for other media outlets as well. One of the outlets I really enjoy writing for is Doximity. It's kind of like a LinkedIn for doctors, basically. And that's something that I'm exploring to see if I could use that outlet to further increase the reach of my blog. So basically trying to reach more residents and fellows and medical students.
Can't wait to see what's coming next from you, man. Seriously.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, look, we are getting towards the end of the interview, but I have some quick, fast questions to ask you. You game?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's do it. So what's one thing you want physicians to get from this podcast?
One thing is to start thinking about money actively.
Okay. And what's your retirement plan?
I don't have a time plan, but I have a money plan. I will plan to retire, or at least not work full time once I hit $5 million in today's value.
Do you ever see yourself just not practicing, not doing radiology, just kind of focusing on the blog site if it explodes that well?
No, because I think I enjoy it too much. I think even if I do reach, that 5 million number, I would still plan to practice maybe half-time or part-time.
Where do you see Future Proof in 5 years?
I would like to be, one of the go-to sites for people looking for financial information if they're a physician. Mm-hmm. And I think I'm already getting there. But I like I said earlier, my personal hero is Dr. Jim Daly over at White Coat Investor. It would be amazing to be have that level of success.
Have you ever thought about different mediums, like maybe going video, going on YouTube, podcasting, anything like that?
Stay tuned.
All right, cool. We're excited. I can't wait to see what you're gonna do next. Then,
yeah.
Who's someone that you admire?
I really enjoy Dr. Jim Daly, his post and his advice on me starting the website. Also, another anonymous physician blogger who goes by Physician on Fire.
Oh, yes.
Another great site. Definitely your listeners should check out. And another site is Passive Income MD. Another site would be Dr. Wise Money. So there's so many of us, and like I said, there's now a built-in community of physician money bloggers, and it's just so great and to be a part of this.
Love it. Now, the last question or sentence that I want you to answer is, it's a question that I ask to all of my guests. It's a sentence that, in essence, embodies just being more than just a doctor, in essence. So my sentence to you is, I'm not just a doc, I'm and I want you to fill in the blank after that. So to you, Future-Proof MD, I'm not just a doc, I'm a
cheerleader for your financially secure future.
Damn, that's really good. I like that. Excellent answer.
Yeah, thanks.
Well, Future-Proof, Bo, thank you very much for being on the show. I really appreciate you being on the show. I know you have a lot of other things going on, obviously, with the blog. And I know you just got back in town from China. So thank you very much for being on the show. Your time is definitely appreciated.
Thank you so much for having me on the show. It's been a pleasure.
And that's a wrap. Episode 17 is officially over. Look, if you'd like to learn more about Future-Proof MD or read more about his writings, make sure you show him some love. Take a look at his website at futureproofmd.com. Once again, that's futureproofmd.com. The links will be in the show notes. If you like this show, if you're finding value in the show, please share this show with others. Send the links to other people. Also, leave a review on iTunes, Google Play, as well as Stitcher Radio. All the links are on the website, on the show notes. You could also send feedback to me on Twitter at DocsOTB. Once again, that's at Docs, DOCSOTB. And I've upgraded my email. You can send me email directly to nii at docsotb.com. So I'll catch you all on the next show. But before I go, you know what time it is. It's time to live outside the box.